Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Where would you turn? The young girl was fading fast, and her parents were nearly completely out of options. When she first became ill, they had gone out searching for Jesus. Home remedy might work. She got worse. Some of their friends who were folks in town who had a little bit more knowledge of medicine, they tried to help. She got worse. Pretty soon, her condition worsened far beyond the basic medical care that her parents or anyone else could provide. It all happened so quickly. It didn't seem right. It didn't seem fair. It just didn't make sense. This young lady, this young girl, had hopes and dreams and years ahead of her, but none of that was on her parents' mind at that moment. The knowing nod from his wife, Jairus went running out of his house. Word had traveled through town very quickly when Jesus and his disciples landed on the beach outside, on their part of the shore of the Sea of Galilee. Jairus knew where he had to go. And as he made his way through that growing crowd, as he tried to knock people over, as he tried to find every gap and try to get to Jesus as soon as he possibly could, he had one mission in mind: to bring Jesus to his daughter's side. He knew Jesus could help his daughter. Now, Jairus wasn't just a concerned father. He was a leader of the community. What he was doing was not something that those who were the elders of the community typically did. He was a leader in the synagogue, a guy in charge. Now, God's word doesn't tell us if Jairus or his wife ever, heard Jesus teach, if they had ever witnessed Jesus heal someone. Yet some from his synagogue came back with breathtaking stories. Stories of loved ones healed. Stories of demons cast out. Stories of teaching like no other. This rabbi who is like no other rabbi. We don't know how much Jairus and his wife knew about Jesus, but they did know that this Jesus could help their daughter. They did know that this Jesus could help her, so Jairus hurried to those crowds of people clamoring to be healed by Jesus, clamoring to hear his teaching, clamoring to even just touch his garment. Following the crowds and trying to make his way forward, Jairus wondered to himself if he would ever get to Jesus, if he would get to him in time, and just then the crowd parted, and there, standing before him, was Jesus. There was the one who could help his daughter, and leader in the community, that elder of the people, that ruler of the synagogue, fell face down on the ground at Jesus' feet. He urgently pleaded to the Lord on behalf of his daughter, "My little daughter is dying. Please come and put your hands on her so that she will be healed and live." You were to see it in the Greek. He's just kind of piling up the terms. Daughter near death, come and help now and she will live. Where else did he turn in that moment of desperation? In that moment when life didn't make sense, as his daughter's life was slipping away, Jairus did the only thing that made sense. He went to the Lord for help. You know what? Jesus didn't ignore Jairus. He didn't say, "I have other things to do." Being the all-knowing God, his plan for that day was to heal that young lady, that girl. In fact, he didn't even hesitate to go with Jairus. Jesus was going to heal that girl that day, but there was a problem. That big growing crowd that was just kind of seething and moving around Jesus, they weren't going to let the teacher go off alone. Where he was going, they were going. There were so many of them pushing and pressing on Jesus and his disciples that they had trouble moving. And then Mark tells us about something that didn't make sense that Jesus did. Even as Jairus is tugging at his sleeve, "Come on, teacher, come on, please hurry, we got to get going here." Jairus wanted to get Jesus to his daughter's side yesterday, but Jesus did something that just didn't make sense. He stopped. Mark tells us there was a woman in the crowd, a desperate woman, a woman as desperate as Jairus, who had been suffering from a flow of blood for 12 years, and the medical care wasn't all that great, and she had been suffering for so many years, and she thought, if I can just touch his garment, I will be healed. Mark tells us that the woman was healed, but Jesus also stopped to talk to her. Jesus stopped in that urgent moment. What about Jairus? What about his daughter? Lord, come on. You kind of see him casting his toes. Lord, we got to get going. What about the girl you got to save? We need to talk to this lady. She's going to be the death of my daughter if you stay here. It didn't make sense. Jesus could save his daughter if they would just get going. If she died, what good would Jesus be? Delay didn't make sense. If the Lord needed to teach Jairus a lesson. You see, Jairus wanted Jesus to save his daughter, but Jairus needed to understand his Savior, to learn about his Savior first. You see, the Lord moves at his own pace. Death always dies when Jesus speaks. Disease flees. Demons cry out and disappear when the Lord speaks. Jairus could tap his toes, tug on Jesus' sleeves, and try to drag Jesus for weeks, and Jesus would still save his daughter. In fact, Jesus was going to. She was as good as saying, why, Jesus is our Savior, God, and he was going to save that girl. Nothing was going to stop him from saving that girl. But Jairus needed to wait on the Lord's time. Because the Lord cares about each and every soul. Now, just as Jesus was finishing talking to the woman, that woman who Jairus was sure was going to be the death of his daughter, some messengers came from his home and gave him heartbreaking news. Your daughter is dead. Why bother the teacher anymore? All the air, all the energy, all the urgency rushed out of Jairus' body. His little girl was gone. He was too late. Jesus couldn't heal her anymore, and his heart sunk into his stomach. Now, Jesus overheard what the messengers had told Jairus. The time had come for Jesus to focus his compassion and love on that grieving father at that moment. Now, Jairus didn't know he was bringing God himself to his daughter's side. Jairus didn't know that no one can tell God if they're bothering him, except for God himself saying, you're bothering me. Jairus didn't know that to God death is nothing more than a hiccup that he can brush away as the Lord of life and death. So we can forgive Jairus if he didn't understand when Jesus said, don't be afraid, only believe. Now, Jesus wasn't asking here. He was commanding Jairus to believe him. To trust and believe, or to believe. Believe what? The answer to that question was standing right in front of the synagogue ruler. An answer whose power over life and death fills that don't be afraid with peace and promise and hope for sinners lost in the senselessness of this life. Those words have brought peace to countless souls before Jairus, and they have brought peace to countless souls ever since. The answer to fear and faith is Jesus. From that point forward, Jesus no longer allowed the crowds to follow him and Jairus. They were going to travel by themselves. In fact, Jesus left behind 9 of his disciples. He brought along 3, Peter, James, and John. And they would be in the room with him as he brought that young lady back to life. So they went, and they made their way to Jairus' home, and they went inside the house, and what they find a huge commotion. People weeping and wailing loudly. Friends and family and neighbors and synagogue members had come from all over to grieve with the family. It was loud. It was heart-wrenching. It was emotional. So when Jesus spoke and what Jesus had to tell them in that emotional moment, you can kind of understand why it sounded like nonsense. Why all this commotion and wailing? The child is not dead, but asleep. In that emotional moment, what did all those grieving mourners do? Django, Rabbi, you're right. You're right. No, they laughed at Jesus. They ridiculed him. I mean, they knew death death. They knew death all too well. They knew what death looked like. They knew what dead is, and that girl was clearly dead. Asleep? You're funny. They did what people often do when Jesus says he's going to give life to the dead. But that didn't stop Jesus. He's the Lord of life. He is the Lord of life and death. Jesus put them all up. It's kind of interesting. The word that Mark uses here is the same word that the gospel writers use to describe Jesus cleansing the temple. He put them out. Except for Mr. and Mrs. Jairus, Peter and James and John, and the young lady who's about to rise from the dead. They went to her room, where the child's body was, and Jesus took her lifeless hand and he simply said to her, Talitha Kum. It's interesting, Mark actually records for us the Aramaic phrase, and then he translates it for us. He said, little girl, I say to you, get up. And what did she do? She dramatically, slowly opened her eyes and kind of fluttered open, and then she kind of slowly sit up, stretch and yawn and wipe the death out of her eyes. No. Death left her body as soon as Jesus spoke. Immediately, she got out of bed and stood up. Immediately, that young 7th grader was there, alive. Of course, everyone in the room except Jesus was utterly and completely amazed. They had never seen anyone rise from the dead before. We haven't seen anyone rise from the dead before. We'd be amazed too. But in that moment, when everyone was, oh, wow, Jesus thought to provide her with food. Get her something to eat. Death takes a lot out of you, and she had an empty stomach. Jesus also told her parents something that to us doesn't make a lot of sense. He gave strict orders not to let anyone know about this. Surely word would get out once they saw Jairus and Mrs. Jairus celebrating the resurrection of their daughter. Why not tell everyone? Well, this is certainly good news, and good news about what the Lord of life and death has come to do, but Jesus wanted to be clear. He wanted the people to know that he didn't come to be a faith healer. He didn't come to be a bread king. He didn't come to be someone who's just healing sicknesses. Jesus came to face suffering and death on the cross for the sins of the world. Jesus came conquered death by his own resurrection. Jesus couldn't stay there and raise everybody's loved ones at that moment because Jesus had to go and conquer death. Jesus had to go and save the world from death. Now there are times in all of our lives when you feel like Jairus, when life doesn't make sense, when life doesn't seem fair. So what do? Where do you turn in such times? You have hopes and dreams and expectations for your life, for your marriage, for your family, for your business, but things don't go the way you expect. You expect success up the corporate ladder. You expect a lifetime of wedded bliss. You expect your child to be the next great athlete or scholar or entrepreneur. You expect a lifetime of good health for yourself and your loved ones. You expect your business to succeed. But what happens? This veil of tears in this sinful world, stuff happens. You get downsized. You can't find a job that matches your degree. 2 sinners under the same roof can lead to arguments and conflicts, or even worse. Kids rebel or veer down harmful paths. Your body breaks down and you receive a life-changing diagnosis. The economy bottoms out. So where do you turn at that point in time? Where do you turn when your life doesn't make sense? You look inside for help. You try to find the answer yourself. If I just try hard enough, we pull ourselves, keep trying to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps, and I will succeed, we will survive. But what happens in those unguarded moments when you can't anymore? Do you look outside of yourself, to your friends or family, or to the wisdom or distraction of society or science or sports? They can only do so much. Before long, you find yourself in the shoes of Mr. and Mrs. Jairus, out of options and desperate for a solution. So where do you turn when nothing in your life seems to make sense anymore? Where can you turn when you feel like Jairus and it seems like you have no more options ahead of you? You can turn to Jesus. Turn to Jesus, who focuses his compassionate love on you. At that moment, you might feel desperate, frantic, uncertain, worried, confused, because you don't know what to do. Yet there's Jesus, putting his nail-scarred hand on your shoulder and wiping your tears away, and telling you, don't be afraid, only believe. Believe in one Lord. Believe in who? Believe in Jesus. Believe in the one who takes your fears away because he faced a lifetime of them for you. Believe in the one who is the ultimate solution to your big problems of sin and death, and therefore will help you even through these momentary troubles of this life. Believe in the one who takes your worries away because he is the Lord of life and death. Believe in the one who takes your desperation away because he has conquered death for you. When life doesn't make sense, where can you turn? You can turn to Jesus. See him give life to the dead. Wisdom. You can see him make the foolish and senseless wise. You can see him replace fear with confidence, doubt with hope, and grief